I want to turn now to the drug trade, the enormous business, billions and billions of dollars of buying and using and seeking medical attention around taking drugs, legal and illegal, but particularly the vast illegal drug trade. And the United States, it should be understood, is the number one country in the world creating the demand for drugs that then fuels, of course, all of the activity around the world to grow them, to manufacture them, to ship them, and to collect the money in payment. American officials like to blame other countries, and the other countries in turn point the finger right at the United States, saying if you didn't have the enormous demand and the willingness to pay an enormous amount of money, there would be no trade in drugs. So don't blame us. Look first to your own situation. And that's what I want to do with you. I want to talk about the economics of taking drugs and buying them and spending all that money and doing such damage along the way. So, first, and in no order of importance, here are the things to keep in mind. We live in a society in which drug companies spend a fortune on promoting drugs. It's very important that people understand that for many of our mental health issues that in other societies are handled by psychological interventions, therapies of all kinds, it's a very important issue for the pharmaceutical companies to persuade you otherwise, to make you think of your depressed feelings, of your anxieties, as being chemical issues that can be solved by a chemical that you take injected or by mouth or whatever form. It's a constant promotion, a constant advertising to seek in a pill the solution to problems that are psychological and probably much better handled by your mind and your body in ways other than taking dangerous chemicals into your system. Right alongside of that, there are very poor controls. Drug companies are allowed to fund professors who do studies that show drugs are good, not addictive, okay to take. Do they have to identify themselves? Not at all in any systematic way. So we have very poor control over drugs, which makes them, of course, more widely turned to. Then we have another kind of ideology in America that when you go to work, you really shouldn't think about the workplace as anything you need to have control over. No, we are taught our job is to go to work, which is really not pleasant. But the payoff is we get money that allows us to go to the mall or to the pizza joint after work. We compensate ourselves for the horror of work by having shopping as its reward. You know, you could think otherwise. You could say that those hours of the day, 5 days a week, the best hours of the day, you're at work. And it is important for your mental health that the job conditions be good for you, give you time off, give you some leisure, give you some interesting things to do, rather than working at the pace that now has become famous in that Amazon warehouse where every step is promoted, where you actually have aspirin and other drugs available for workers who get stressed out by the conditions of their job. That's creating a market for drugs. Of course it is. They don't tell you that because they want to hide that. They want you to think the drug is a good, reasonable solution for your problem. Then there are all the cutbacks about coverage. Your insurance, medical insurance, won't cover very many sessions with a therapist, or maybe any at all. And so you hesitate to turn. You want the quick fix, the easy fix, the affordable fix. So you go to the drugs. And we know what medical insurance companies do. They deny you coverage every chance they get. That's how they become millionaires. That's how United Healthcare became so successful. And that's how their CEO lost his life when someone said, "No more of this." These are all signs of what drive people to drugs. And it's too costly, the therapy, for many, whether it's covered or more often not covered. And then we don't give the older people in our society the kind of retirement that would relax them, would give them the leisure, so they wouldn't need to turn to the drugs. And then we have that final phenomena, the older people who don't get enough money to live on Social Security. So guess what? They go to the doctor, they get pain medications, and they sell them to the illegal drug mechanisms in our society that are everywhere, so they can be resold at a profit by those who make their living in that. We have a whole host of institutions that produce the demand for drugs more in this country than anywhere else. We are at base a major cause of the drug trade. Our politicians like to present themselves as the great enemies of the drug trade. Mr. Trump is going to smite Mexico and Canada and Panama. And part of the reason is to fight the drug trade. That's a fight the United States has been waging for the last half century. And you know what? Unsuccessful would be the nicest way to describe all of the efforts by Republicans and Democrats alike. Blaming the Mexicans won't make any more difference than all the blaming of other people that has prevented looking at all the ways our society subsidizes, supports, and promotes people turning to drugs, spending fortunes of money, and thereby fueling the drug trade. Next, I want to turn to what Mr. Trump is threatening Canada with. He suggests Canada could be a 51st state. He threatens Canada. He pushes. He bullies. And the Canadians don't know what to make of it. They had little clue that this was coming. They too signed the NAFTA agreement with Mexico and the United States. They all knew what they were doing. No one held a gun to anyone's head. The treaty has been in effect for many, many, many years. Mr. Trump is making a political issue. He hopes it'll help his standing among people. So let's be interested a little bit in this, in the economics of it. First of all, Canada has been an extraordinarily loyal U.S. ally. It is persecuting the Chinese every way it knows how. It has been gung-ho to support the U.S. in Ukraine. What's the basis for worrying about this country? And, it has only sold to the United States what it has in abundance, which is basically fuel, oil and gas, and so on. It's not been a burden. There's no flood of Canadian immigrants to exaggerate, none of that. And then we had that spectacle right after the election. The Prime Minister in Canada, Mr. Trudeau, flies to Florida to get down on one or maybe both knees to say, don't worry, we love you, Mr. Trump. After which the Canadian people bounced Mr. Trudeau right out of office, since they have no interest, none that anyone can point to, in becoming the 51st state. Let me remind you, Canada has a national health guarantee, a single-payer health insurance program, the likes of which Americans have been fighting for but been unable to achieve. You think the Canadians are eager to become one of the states in a country that doesn't have that kind of health insurance? Think again.